Awonder Liang defeated Hikaru in a match and broke into the Super GM ranks, but then came the rating drop.
I think for me, it's kind of the first time I've ever went through like any downswing at all, honestly.
We discussed Awonder's matches against Hikaru and HANS.
I think that's kind of what I feel like it means to be an elite player.
I was very confused by your strategy in the match against Hans Niemann.
We spoke about chess psychology.
Probably it's something I suffer a little bit from.
And we also discussed an important question in chess and life. How much are you willing to sacrifice for greatness?
And I think for me, like one of the kind of tough realizations is that like...
Do not miss our Blitz game at the end.
This is the Icelandic Gambit, or what is it called? Hi, Awonder. Thrilled to be talking to you.
Thank you for having me. So I'm very glad to be here.
So you've had a very intensive year so far. You've played several matches against very strong players, and you've played a not so successful team event. I want to discuss all of it. But first of all, I was very confused by your strategy in the match against Hans Niemann. You made quick draws with white at some point, several in a row, and even Wesley So criticized you on Twitter for that. Can you explain the strategy? Because I know that you think in like expected value and similar terms. Probably you had some master plan behind all this.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It wasn't like part of the original strategy going in, let's say. But yeah, I think towards the end of the match, he handled the energy a little better than me. It was just kind of a schedule I wasn't used to. And somehow, like right at the start of the match, I kind of unexpectedly fell a bit ill, which happens, I think. I think a lot of players sometimes are not on their best form. And yeah, I think after a couple days, I sort of realized that, yeah, I think the first part, probably my preparation was good. And so he also had a hard time there. And I think probably my energy was still good. And then after a couple of days, it kind of caught up to me. So at that point, I sort of thought I had like a couple of decisions I could, let's say, play the rest of the preparation and the match. And then, but yeah, I wasn't really sure like where my form was, and it was a little bit shaky. Yeah, so at that point, I sort of thought it's probably a little bit better to just try to limit the damage. Yeah, I think for other players, like, it's kind of hard to imagine them taking the same decision. Like, I think if I look at some of the compatriots and other players at the top level, and I think for me, that's probably something I'd want to work on, just managing that. Yeah, I think probably I've been pretty lucky in the past year. I haven't really gotten sick. And I mean, it's kind of a luck thing, I think. But for sure, like I've played other opponents that were probably not in the best shape, right? So yeah, I think the important part of being a chess player is being able to play under all the conditions. So I think at that point, I sort of wasn't really like that ready of like the possibility, like how do I play when I'm not in the best shape? Yeah, I think that's something that it was very good to have the experience. And for sure, you know, it's good to play under all the conditions. And yeah, I don't like definitely something I'm thinking about a lot and trying to work on for the future.
How do people work on this? I've recently been reading Hans's answers on the AMA session on Reddit, and he also said that he's working specifically on how to raise his quote lowest level and play better under stress and when on tilt and something like this. How can one work on this? You probably have some recipes.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're asking me right when I've kind of had the worst results, so that I'm trying to work on it now. So I don't really have an answer yet. I'm just sort of thinking a lot about it because, yeah, it's something for me which is pretty new and hasn't happened to me before. I'm kind of trying to read and think about like what could help. I think what is interesting to me is a lot of times you don't really realize like things that are important until you don't really have them anymore. And what I mean by that is, I think before, if you asked me like what the most important factors for doing well in chess were, it would probably be something like, I don't know, hard work and preparation and, you know, playing training games, something like this. And now probably the number 1 and 2 things for me, which are most important to my success, are things like sleep and motivation. And I think concentration is also up there. And I think probably for me, because I'm still like fairly young, you don't really realize that those things are important. And now probably I'm trying to focus a little bit more on that and get like a better schedule. Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, I have no idea. So it's kind of a work in progress, and I guess we'll see how the next couple of years shape out.
You mentioned sleep and resting, and you also mentioned the unfortunate event you had, a team event in Italy. Did you not get enough sleep? Did you like drink Italian wine and party instead of that, or what?
No, I'm not drinking anymore. Okay, when I was like in my undergrad days, probably I was drinking a little bit more. Those are a little bit better. No, now I'm not really drinking at all, honestly. I think the top players, they're very good at keeping their level very high. I mean, honestly, it kind of depends, like I think it was kind of interesting to see how the candidates was shaping out once Sindarov was kind of running away with it. I think for a lot of players, they kind of maybe were checked out a little bit. I think Anish at the end, he was just farming all the players who were a little bit checked out. So I think, but he had a lot to play for, I think. And even if you have a small chance, it's worth trying very hard. Yeah, motivation is kind of an interesting question for me. I think I noticed from the top players, even when they're sort of having a very bad tournament, they're still bringing a very high level. And I think for me, kind of similar as Hans pointed out, I think my level can drop a lot if I'm not very motivated or I don't feel to play. And I think for me, it's also never been an issue before because I really enjoy playing chess. I love playing. And it's never been like I sit at the board and I don't want to play. But yeah, it kind of just happened to be that way this time. And I think the main thing is like in the critical moments, sometimes it's hard to find that extra energy to convert or to push or to defend when the position is worse. I think that just kind of comes intrinsically. Of course, I think I also have a lot of chess weaknesses I'm trying to work on. And so I think also, if I just like, I think I was making a lot of blunders. So for instance, if I probably worked on my tactics a little bit, that would probably also help the baseline level a bit. But yeah, to be honest, the answer is, I don't actually know. So it's kind of been a lot of work, like a lot of self-reflection, just trying to think about what went wrong and what I can improve on for the future. And I think what will probably happen is I will try a lot of different things. Some probably I feel like will help me, some won't. And I think gradually I'll probably get a little bit better is the hope.
Well, it's very, I think, modest of you to say that you have weaknesses being such a strong player. It's interesting that, yeah, obviously we are all human and all human players have weaknesses.
Guys, this podcast is sponsored by Chessreps, a chess website for learning chess openings. And recently, my partners from Chessreps were criticized by a grandmaster from Switzerland who said in his video that it's obviously not a website for preparation for grandmasters. The lines are not deep enough, etc., etc. So let me tell you some of my unfiltered thoughts on this. So as you may see from my screen, I've personally used Chessreps and I've learned some of the openings there. I've completed some of the courses, opening courses on there. And I also have couple of my own courses here. So Mustreader's A4 in the 4 knights, the course, the lines that I used to make a draw against Wei Yi at the end of my podcast where we played Blitz, a very nice line. And also I have a line, Mustreader's Milner-Barry Gambit versus the French. This is a very nice gambit against the French defense with white. I recommend you use it. Anish Giri used it against me at the end of our podcast episode when we played Blitz and defeated me. But I also play it with white. So that brings us to the point. Chessreps has lots of different opening courses. And they are not for everyone. Some of the courses, the default courses, are created by Ethan, who is the founder of Chessreps. I know him personally. He's an amateur player. He's rated around 1200 FIDE. And he personally likes chess, likes working on this. He created this website. And yeah, he's not a GM. So if you are a grandmaster or a titled player, Ethan's courses probably will not be very helpful for you because they are short. They just give the main lines in a given opening. So I was interested, for example, I checked out his course on the Jibava London. I finished it, as you see. Very instructive. Some lines in the Jibava, I got the feel of the position. If I'm an amateur player, definitely that's enough to start playing an opening. So if you are amateurs, you can definitely check out the courses. And I found the lines, by the way, very nice. So I'm rated online 2300, much higher than Ethan, but still I got useful things from this because obviously he makes those lines with an engine. But that's not all of Chessreps. Chessreps is a website where anyone can create their own opening repertoire, which is a very nice feature, by the way. You should try it yourself. So, for example, you have your own lines. You can input them into the Chessreps interface, just like I did, for example, with the A3 in the 4 knights. And then you can drill, you can practice the lines to not forget them. For example, like here I do with this A3 line. And here it's important to take this pawn. It is possible, and then to fork black, and already white enjoys a pleasant advantage. So you can train your own lines. You can even forget about using other repertoires. You can use your own, and that's a great feature. Also, there are community courses there. Here you see community courses. You press this, and there are lots of different courses created by the community of Chessreps. I recommend you check them out. Lots of very nice courses. Some of them are more complicated, others are shorter, different strokes for different folks. I've also spoken with Ethan recently, and he said that they are also going to launch some courses by titled players on the platform. So it's good to hear there will be even more variety and options in that aspect. And I recommend you should check out Chessreps. Follow the link in the description. You can start using it for free, and then if you like it, you can buy a subscription, which is, by the way, not as expensive as most competitors. So check it out. And let's continue with the podcast.
But still, you have some specific plan, you said. Can you, without maybe giving away any secrets, share at least part of it?
Secret plan. I don't know if my plans are so secret. I think they're pretty basic. I think there's a ton of research out there already. Part of it is probably just growing up. I think everyone goes through this. Just not even like a chess thing, but a life thing. Like just being more responsible as an adult. I think, in my college days, you can kind of just do like whatever. It's not that serious. You have some exams, but it's not a big deal. And now I think there are like probably more important things, like just trying to eat well. And I don't know. I think these things are very well known, like how to deal with them. Like I think there's pretty much a solved question, but it's not like that simple to implement it in practice. I think for me, I think for many other people, like, if you have children, that will kind of affect your schedule a lot, and you probably need to be a lot more, let's say, on time or disciplined with it. I think for me, I can sleep at 3 a.m. and it might not affect my day that much. But yeah, in general, I'm trying to, let's say, sleep at the same hour every night. When you wake up, like go for a walk and get some sunshine. I mean, these are, I think, like, yeah, I'm not like a health expert or anything. So yeah, I just kind of copy what other people say to do. But I think there's a lot of documented research and that's pretty good. As far as motivation, I think that probably just differs from a lot of people. I think for me, it's kind of the first time I've ever went through like any downswing at all, honestly. Since I started kind of taking chess more seriously, I'd say around 2024 was when I was actually starting to work a lot more. Yeah, I never really had any down months. Like maybe if I lost some rating, it would be like 3 rating points in 1 month. And then the next month it would just be back up. And not like going up so much, but slowly like collecting a few points here and there and slowly grinding up. And so for me, it's kind of, it was a huge shock at first. And I think for now, I'm still trying to work on it. I think I've gotten a lot of advice from friends and family and support. And I think the main thing that has helped me is that everyone kind of goes through it. And I think if you look at a lot of top players, like no one, except for, okay, some of them are just better than us, and that's okay, we'll ignore them. For the large majority, most of the top players also went through some epic downswings. I think just realizing that it's a part of life, and I think, it's everyone goes through it. I think it helps me realize that, I can probably get through it and try to come back a little bit stronger as well.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this as well. Everyone at some point had downswings. Fabi, Hikaru, and did Magnus never ever have a downswing?
I mean, Magnus's downswings probably went from being like number 1 in the world to still number 1 in the world, but slightly less number 1. So, some of us are, some of them, they may be just better than us. That's okay. There's not much we can do about that.
Yeah, maybe in Qatar Masters, right? When he lost 2 games, one to the Kazakhstani Grandmaster Alisher Suleimanov and another to Karthikeyan, I think.
Yeah. I think maybe like that could be considered a downswing, but of course, I think it's just part of, not even from chess, but there are lots of downswings in life, all kinds of things. So yeah, I think it's just part of growing up. As I said, I feel like at 23, things kind of just went up, and it's pretty good. And yeah, sometimes things go down too, and that's perfectly okay.
You're definitely analyzing and probably have already analyzed the results of your recent event. What would you say was the most important thing that went wrong for you to lose so many rating points and to lose a game to a 2300 rated player, for example? What was the reason for that?
Yeah, first of all, I've lost games to 2300s before because I play a lot of open tournaments and sometimes they will beat me. In general, I'm just like picking up, over the long run, I'm, I guess, beating them more often than not. There are probably a couple things. Like, first of all, I think my technique is pretty bad. And that's something that's kind of been an issue for a long time. I think like more than a year. But generally, I was converting a lot anyway. So it's not a big deal. It's just like if I converted even more, probably I could be, okay, it's hard to say what my level would be because I think people would play a little bit tighter against me. But yeah, I think the positives was I was generating like tons of chances. Like I think in almost every game I had good chances. Also against HANS, I was generating a lot of chances, which I think is also a good sign. Yeah, kind of just everything coalesced together. I think I was, let's say, in a bad shape. And then after a couple losses, it's sort of, I think not even the losses affected me, but like drawing completely winning positions. Like it kind of makes it hard to enjoy the game, I think, a little bit. It just sort of feels like the games I play are like not very pretty or not very aesthetic. And then, yeah, I think the fact that I sort of got like squished into, like, I think if I was playing an open tournament, maybe it would have made sense to withdraw. Of course, withdrawing is not like generally something I would look to do or like doing. That probably could be one option if I felt like I'm in a really bad shape. But then I sort of was in this situation where I sort of was already understood like I'm not in a great shape. And then I still have to play 15 more games and with this, 2 games a day schedule. And yeah, it's okay. I think it just happens sometimes. Sort of some advice that people have given me is that this will kind of happen sooner or later. So it's sort of good that it happens now, and then I can sort of come back from it stronger. And then later we'll see,
Well, obviously, of course, up streaks and down streaks happen with all chess players. When you defeated Hikaru in a match earlier this year, did you feel like, because before that, I've watched your podcast on the Underpromoted YouTube channel, great stuff. And you said that you still don't feel like you belong in the elite, so to say. But by ratings, already at that point, you were above 2700, but you said that you didn't feel on par with those guys. When you defeated Hikaru, did you finally feel that you are one of them?
No, I still don't think so. I think, yeah, in individual matches, you can be very strong. But I think the difference with the elite players is they're very strong over a sample size of years. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess the way I kind of tend to think about it is, I guess if you have like 100 games, let's say, against top players, and let's say you're on average supposed to score like 50, maybe some players are supposed to score 60 if they're playing lower rated players on average. If you think of these as just like relatively random results, I guess my point is that there's a lot of variance. So like 2 standard deviations is like about like 50, like a 50 rating point swing. That's like maybe like a 5% chance of occurring, but I guess that sort of means that, a player that's currently like 2700 could be 2750, or a player that's 2770 could be 2720 now. So I think, and 100 games, I think, that's like a lot of games. I think a lot of top players, like a full tournament schedule could be like 60 classical rated games. So I think to collect that sort of information, you sort of need years and years just of games against top level opposition. Yeah, but I sort of feel like from my personal perspective, I think the top players know a lot. It's sort of hard to, they just know like so many positions and so many things just by being young, like maybe with some, like just by motivation or the youth, let's say, spirit, you can kind of, let's say in game to game, like I can definitely compete against these guys. I have no doubt in my ability to do that. Like when I sit down against Fabi, I don't feel like super intimidated. I can play against him. Yeah, but I think at the same time, I feel like just I can sort of understand and feel like the amount of work that they put into the game. And it's not just, playing the other top players, but how much they, sit at home and work and prepare, or maybe they pay to win, so someone else is preparing for them. But even still, it's a lot. When I work for like 6 months or 1 year, I feel like learned so much more than I knew like a year ago. And just like imagining that multiplied out across like a 15-year career, I think that's kind of what I feel like it means to be an elite player. I mean, I enjoy competing against them. I'm very happy to. But yeah, I think it's kind of a long journey. And I think even for the top prodigies, a lot of them, they make this rapid ascent to 2800, then they kind of come down a bit as people get used to them, and then they sort of come back up again. And I think that's kind of how it goes. I don't know if my talent or how my life progressed will really lead me to, let's say, a 2800 career. That seems a little bit doubtful. But yeah, I guess we you never know. And yeah, I think it's good to have this mindset where I want to just like keep learning and continually try to improve and try to get to that level. Yeah, I think it doesn't make sense to like self-declare myself as an elite player or as strong as some of them. If I like study enough and I learn enough things and I know enough about the game, and then it will just kind of show itself on the chessboard and I guess with my results.
It's interesting. There is this stark contrast, I would say, between you and some other modest chess players, and there are some other people like HANS, for example, who are very, very self-confident and maybe sometimes rightfully so, sometimes over the top, in my opinion. They say they are the greatest, they are the brightest talents, and they will be world champions. Do you think that this mindset, like this narcissism, this maybe inadequate self-confidence helps in chess?
Okay, I mean, we play a game for entertainment, and I think it's good to have a little bit of personality for sure. Yeah, insofar as like how much of some of it is real and how much is making some jokes. I don't really tend to take it too seriously. For some players, it's like definitely I think very important, the mentality. I think probably it's something I suffer a little bit from, just that I like to enjoy life. Life is good, and it's not that serious. And I think that is one of the good things about chess, though, is that it is like a very equitable game, and sometimes this hunger can take you very far. One of the amazing things you see is that a lot of players from, let's say, not super affluent backgrounds or from super rich countries are making it to the top. Like India, Uzbekistan, Fallujah grew up in Iran, right? So maybe the countries you wouldn't think with the most support, and they're making their way all the way to the very top. And yeah, I think it's very admirable. That like you can have this sort of hunger, I think, and it can maybe provide like a lot of I think just that like energy at the board. I mean, in terms of like mentality, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on this. I think my mentality at the board is like generally very strong, and I think all the top players have this very strong mentality. Like you probably wouldn't expect it, but I think just from like my limited experience playing and with some of these top guys, I think when I was when I was at Webster, I'm currently at Webster University right now studying with Liang, the Vietnamese GM, and we had a training session a little bit before I joined, and I think at this point I was already very close to 2700 for the first time, obviously a little bit fresh from chess, and I was like, okay, let's play some Blitz or whatever. And I remember, like the first like 20 or 30 games we played, I basically couldn't like win any single game. Like we were making some draws and he was just like winning like tons of games. And you look at him and he's like the nicest guy ever, right? So I think I think when it comes to the chessboard, a lot of people, they have very strong mentality and they're just like winning every single game. Insofar as like how that bleeds over to the rest of your life, that's something I'm not super sure about. For me, it's not absolutely necessary to sort of live or become that persona. I think it depends a lot person to person. Yeah, I feel like players at the top are more similar than they sort of seem. Like the nicest guys in real life are just as mean as everyone else when it comes to the board. And I think the people that play up the persona, they're not as like abrasive as you would expect. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's something I'm not super sure about. Like, but I guess the way I would prefer to live life is, maybe just have a good time and enjoy it a bit, maybe at the cost of a couple of half points.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you for your thoughts. By the way, about Webster, I also wanted to ask. We will talk about this, but first of all, let's also talk about a little bit about your ambitions. So you said that you want to enjoy life, but also you want to improve at chess. And the question often arises. How much do you want to become like the world chess champion, for example? How much are you willing to sacrifice? This topic we discussed, for example, recently with Peter Svidler on the recent episode of the podcast, and he said that he is happy that he did not sacrifice everything. So what's your, maybe if you could quantify your approach to this, how much are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to dedicate to chess versus how much do you want to enjoy life? Do you have some percentage or some way to measure this?
I think I'm too young to answer that question. But yeah, I think what I will say, and I think it's kind of deepened my appreciation for, I think, the top level, is I think over the past month, and I mean generally over the past year, I've kind of put a lot of myself into studying and working on chess and trying to become better. It hasn't, I think, occupied all of my attention, but it's kind of been the premier focus for the past year. And, a lot of long hours. And, there are days when I'm just like tired at the end of the day and you hit the bed and you just immediately fall asleep. And I think those are pretty good days. And I think just to have this month where I'm losing a lot and I'm struggling a lot, I think just understanding that, I think like for me personally, I worked pretty hard. But probably going forward, I need to like work even harder to get that level, right? Yeah, I think when I was in college, I was kind of maybe lazy or whatever. And I think it's sort of, I don't know, I guess it's like very classic way of protecting yourself. Like let's say if I fail an exam, it's because I didn't study for it at all, or I never went to class, right? So okay, I wasn't that bad a student, but and you can kind of make that excuse to yourself. And I think with chess, I sort of at some point didn't want to make that excuse for myself that I, let's say, don't work or I go to school or whatever. Yeah, I think for me that part is like pretty important. And I think for me, like one of the kind of tough realizations is that like in terms of ambition that I put what was to me a lot of myself, and I think it wasn't really enough to crack the top level. And I sort of understand, I think, that the top guys are probably working even more than me. I don't know, just like it has to keep going, right? I think in terms of ambition and enjoying life, yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth about this. I think, but generally, I think it's good to regularize in all parts of life, just kind of keeping a good balance. And I don't know, this is like, it's not new stuff, right? This is like, Aristotle had this in like whatever BC. So, but yeah, I think, I've kind of had a lot of differing advice from friends and mentors in your 20s, what's like a good balance. And I think, of course, nowadays, I think there's very much a culture of trying to work and do as much as possible. And sort of, I think you see it a lot in society, not just chess. And I think I probably lean a little bit closer to that end, just in how I live my day-to-day life. But I have to say that probably in some aspects that I don't sacrifice absolutely everything, as it feels like some of the other players are doing, especially the young generation. I feel like they're just beyond impressive. I'm talking about like Fruja and Ergaisi and all of these players. And I think you feel their energy at the board, and it feels very tremendous. So yeah, I think for me it's sorry, it's a very long answer, but it's just something I've been thinking about for a long time and how to approach this. Yeah, I think every young person will have their different answer, and I think probably all of them are kind of correct in some small way. So yeah, it's kind of a long way to say that I'm not really sure, and I'm kind of working on it and hope that I'll get better.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts. You mentioned like having these days when you work the whole day and go to bed exhausted. How many hours per day do you work on chess on such days?
I think it can very much depend. I think sometimes I'm like very happy with 6, and I think like 4 to 6 hours is kind of a perfect amount on like an average day to do like really focused work. I think right before a tournament, if I'm really grinding a lot, it can be, I mean, basically from like morning until you go to bed, right? So yeah, I think those are good days, and I really appreciate those as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think as long as I enjoy it, I feel like it's not really something that you really mind, I guess. And I think probably a lot of other people are also working in the same way. Maybe not every day, but let's say on some days, yeah, for sure.
I see. And so most of that time is dedicated to what? To openings?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about changing my style a little bit. Yeah, in general, I'm kind of like a very opening degenerate players, and I think there are some players at the top level who are very similar. Let's say trying to get big advantage out of the opening. In general, I think it helps me a little bit. I feel like maybe because I play a lot of these open tournaments, like it kind of saves a little bit of energy. And I think against most, let's say sub 20, like below 2,700 players, generally I can expect to get like pretty big advantages out of the opening, which is okay, a little bit, let's say, unfair, right? But yeah, it's kind of, I just naturally enjoy doing it. I think for me, it kind of feels like a very satisfying work, like sort of like research work. And I think the other players, some other players, let's say, are they don't like to do this as much, and let's say they solve a lot of exercises, and they, I'm not sure, do a lot of other different things. Every player has their own style. Naturally, we kind of gravitate to what we like doing a little bit more. And generally, I find like some elements of the game much more satisfying than others. Yeah, I definitely like neglected some parts of, let's say, the chess. Yeah, like if you're trying to max out all your skills, definitely for sure there are some skills that I'm lacking. And so I think probably moving forward, just trying to be more regular and kind of more well-rounded in my work routine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned tactics. Is that one of such areas, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Generally, I just kind of refuse to solve studies, or like exercises. I read once that, Magnus never solves exercises. So I was like, if, it's good enough for him. Unfortunately, I just like, 8 billion other people in the world, we realized that we're not Magnus Carlsen. So probably time to pick up some of the books, right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of all part of the just becoming, I guess, a better chess player. You sort of have to study everything and sort of be good at a lot of different areas of the game. I think in particular, what I understood from the first couple of games with HANS, yeah, I think it was he was very good at resisting, and I think even in much worse positions or let's say like objectively somewhat lost positions, he found a lot of resources, and he put up a lot of resistance. And I think it was kind of a level that I wasn't that used to before. I think also against Hikaru, he, let's say, has some shaky play in the opening, and then he kind of put up a tremendous amount of resistance afterwards. And I think also that level I maybe was like a little bit, not as used to. And I think probably moving forward for sure, like I think, yeah, there's kind of pluses and minuses. I think, on the plus side, I'm able to generate these sort of chances against top players, which I think not everyone is able to do. On the minus, of course, there's some work to be done in improving my conversion and maybe avoiding the blunders so much. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of see, and it's just part of the journey.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, Sindarov recently in an interview said that he doesn't really read chess books, and he hasn't studied most of the classical chess literature. What's your attitude towards like reading books about the great champions of the past, analyzing their games, and what's your take on what he said, if you know what I'm referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think I used to read more books when I was younger. Not just chess books, but just in general. Now I'm a little bit less, because I think sometimes they're not as like they're not as important, or they're not as like succinct sometimes as you'd like them to be. I always felt like reading books was, let's say, not that helpful for improving at chess. But just in general for culture, I think is important. I guess I'm not sure if you ever lived in Russia or.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I guess in Russia they have this very great culture, and is like very important. And maybe in America we don't have as much emphasis on that, right? So yeah, I think in terms of I don't know, let's say like making money or like doing business or whatever, I think like, yeah, probably like reading, some philosophy or something is not that important. Yeah, in the same way, I think for chess, it's also like, I think studying the games of Botvinnik is like, maybe it won't help you when, cracking the latest Petrov novelties. But yeah, I think it's good for culture and just for, I don't know, understanding people, understanding how people lived, how things used to be, and just like the stories from chess are very nice. So I kind of understand like both perspectives. I think it's probably not the most useful thing to do with your time if you're only focused on improving. But for sure, like I think just I don't know, just about life, I think it's good to know some things and just to grapple with some of the ideas and stories of the human experience. And I think as chess players, if we play chess, for sure that is something worthwhile to do. So yeah, I think I probably don't read as much as I should, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, probably because I'm Russian and I've lived a big part of my life in Russia. I I want to argue here and say how important books are. Also, like all my childhood coaches insisted that everybody should study Botvinnik because, like his famous Bishop A3 move against Capablanca, for example, this is like something you should know the pattern that you may encounter in your games. What about that argument, by the way, the pattern recognition, the fact that many of the combinations, for example, of the champions of the past, if you know them, you encounter something like that in your games that will help you. What about that argument?
Yeah, we're kind of in a unique era of chess because we kind of have this oracle, like black box, that just tells you what the best move is every single time. And so I think if you're trying to understand like strategic concepts, or let's say where the pieces should go, how the game should develop, of course we should study the great players of our past, like Botvinnik and Aleka and Capablanca, all of these. I guess Alyohin for the Russians. But yeah, I think the truth is that if you really want to dive into like the heart of what a position is about, like what is actually the truth here, what are the plans, like what are exactly right. I think it is probably true that the work of a computer in 1 minute would be a team of 100 grandmasters working for 1 year on one position. Yeah, just because like I think like you can't really compete against that level of. I think computers both understand chess better than us now, and also with the development of processors, they're just like much faster than we can ever be. Yeah, I think unfortunately chess is kind of not about beauty or about some artistic value, but I think fundamentally playing chess is kind of about winning chess games. And so I think what you kind of see is, I think when it comes to living life, that's of course a different story. But when it comes to winning chess games, I think, people probably feel that they might not need to know as many classics. Of course, it kind of goes without saying that I guess Magnus is like the most, he just like knows all the classics. He's like the most historical guy ever, right? So it kind of goes both ways. I guess we don't really know. Yeah, when it comes to pattern recognition, I think, I don't really feel like there's any wrong way to do things. I haven't really had that much experience at the top, and I don't talk to that many top players, but from what I can gather, everyone kind of just does their own thing. And probably the most important thing is just like the quantity you spend on chess and thinking about chess and working with the chessboard. So whether that's with the classics or whether that's just with the engine or playing training games or tactics, I guess all of that is probably pretty helpful. Yeah.
Probably recent experience shows, yes, that there are many ways to progress in chess, and some players just play lots of online and improve very, very fast. Others study the classics. So yeah, coming back to your story and your trajectory, do you have plans to fight for the for the World Chess Championship title. What's your do you have some kind of a strategy, like a 5-year plan or something like this? Because I have you seen the Vidoniak's interviews, the coach of Sindarov, who says that they have this plan for him to become the dominant player and dominate for like 10 years, like Karpov, Kasparov, or Magnus. Do you have some kind of plan like this?
Well, I think, to be honest, I was kind of in college for a long time at school, and I think I just got out, and now I have a plan for world domination. I think it doesn't sound too realistic, let's say. But no, I think why I kind of got back into chess and felt like I wanted to take it more seriously was just, I think there are like not that many opportunities for me to like do something very hard, let's say, or like push yourself a lot. And I think chess felt like one of those areas where I think for the time being, I didn't want to feel like I left anything on the table, right? In terms of like maybe what I could do or just your potential. I think world champion, to be frank, is a little bit lofty. Like I think other players I feel are more talented than me, and they're also working harder than me. They probably have better funding than me. So, it's an uphill battle. But I just think just trying to be as good as I can be and learn as much about the game as I can, just different patterns, different structures. And I think for me, like a lot of the work I do, I kind of like, I feel is like very pretty, like just in terms of like the understanding I get about chess and just understanding ideas that I've never seen before. They're very new to me and just kind of exploring that. And I think if that's enough to take me to world champion, somewhat unlikely as it may be, but that would of course be lovely. If it's not, then I feel like I would probably be a better player anyway, and I don't think it would be like wasted or lost time at all, for sure. I actually asked once a top player if they were playing for World Championship title because it sounded, I don't know, a little bit dubious to me, and he said, well, if you're playing World Cup and Grand Swiss, then you're fighting for a world champion, So I guess in that sense, probably next year I will play, World Cup and Grand Swiss. And so I guess I will also have, some world championship aspirations. I don't know how many zeros in percent you need to put, but it's definitely there.
But do you have any particular goals, like maybe rating-wise or something like that in chess right now?
Yeah, for the time being, I thought, I guess I've played like most of the interesting tournaments I wanted to play. I guess the main one I haven't played is the Olympiad. So that's kind of why I wanted to play so much in April, just because I sort of wanted to try for the spot before, I guess the June was the cutoff for the America rating list. Okay, so that didn't work out. But yeah, for sure. I guess probably like the main tournaments or experiences I'd like to have is probably like just playing the Olympiad, because I think it's such a fun and a storied event for so many decades. I think anyone in chess has kind of played that tournament, and just I think now is probably a little bit less, how to say. I feel like back then, like in the 70s and 80s, you hear all these stories and people talking about it, and it was like much more of a thing. I feel like now it just feels like a much more like elite tournament. I guess it was an elite tournament back then too. I don't know. And I guess there's also the candidates tournament. I think the candidates tournament is probably harder. So I don't want to like set it there yet. But yeah, I think just for me, it's mostly about just like having the experiences playing against the top players. And yeah, I feel like just seeing where that takes me. Yeah.
I get it. You mentioned funding, and I wanted to ask you about the recent news regarding Webster and its college program. Are you like probably you know much more than I do? What's going on, and what's the future of collegiate chess in the US?
I can't say that I know much more than that's what's publicly available. I think that kind of summarizes the situation pretty well. Yeah, I think it's an unfortunate situation for everyone involved, especially Lim and all the players. I think collegiate chess in America has like a very healthy atmosphere, and especially a lot of our top juniors kind of go to some of, let's say maybe not the chess universities, but even some of the private universities or public universities, and so they've started to field very strong teams. When I did my undergrad at Chicago, we had another grandmaster and also an international master, and we could compete with the top teams. I think in particular, Yale and Stanford have also gotten really strong teams recently. In the past, some of the other teams, I believe, like MIT and Harvard, also had strong teams. So I feel like collegiate chess has always been very healthy in the United States. And I think in particular, one of the biggest benefits of the programs over many years has been that they've kind of imported a lot of very strong grandmasters, probably like around 50 or even maybe like close to 100. I don't know, over the decades. And I think a lot of people talk about Rex Sinkfield doing his wonderful work with the St. Louis Chess Club, hosting all the top tournaments and attracting a lot of top players to the US. But I think especially for the juniors and for me growing up, it was amazing that you can just play like some open tournament in the US and there will be a lot of grandmasters there from the college programs competing for those top prizes. And just to get that experience, because, 20 years ago, I think players, basically you had to go to Europe to play against other GMs. And I think as a result of these collegiate programs, basically kind of just generated the entire American chess ecosystem. So I think SPICE was kind of, or the program at Webster was kind of the top chess program for, let's say, about a couple, I think probably like 1.5 decades, and brought tons of strong players, I guess like Lei Kwang Liam and Wesley, and I think Jorge Corey also very close to reaching 2,700, and many other players. And all of those players I competed against growing up, and just like invaluable to have experience against top 2,700 players. 26 or 2,700 players.
But do you feel it's unfair and that it puts you at a disadvantageous spot if compared with the Indian juniors or people from Uzbekistan, that in the US the support for chess is not as big and is only shrinking these days?
No, not at all. I think America, well, I feel like the American chess ecosystem has always been very good. I think we have kind of a different system to the other countries, like the Indians or Uzbeks. I think primarily, I think it's important not to forget that America in general is a much richer country. And I think maybe the top players, they now get more support, but for the average grandmaster, I think is probably a little bit harder. And I think crossing that bridge, let's say if you're like 15 years old and 2,500, 2,600, I think there's much less support in that avenue. I think America has a lot of support, but it's kind of in sort of a funny way. Like our tournaments have like huge prize funds. I think, let's say some of the top tournaments in the United States has like $20,000 prize fund, which is the same as, let's say, Sharjah Masters, where you'll see like 10, 2,700 players and 50, guys like 2,650. And in the US, it's maybe you'll have like a couple 2,600 guys and a couple 2,500 guys. And so I think for me, I sort of feel like in the US is a little bit less of a safety net. Like maybe you have to take more risk. But yeah, I think for me, like when I was trying to fund like some training camps or something, let's say for the World Rapid and Blitz, I played horribly. Then it kind of set me back. Then I was like, okay, then I should probably win some tournaments, do some coaching, this and that. Yeah, I think, like which countries have, I don't even know, like $400,000 prize fund for the national championship, all these kind of tournaments. And I think, yeah, the support, I guess, in the US, I guess you don't get support for being high rated. You probably should win the prize of, $90,000 first prize, and then that can fund your expenses and training camps and coaches for the year, right? So I think there's kind of a much more like meritocratic, capitalist way of doing it, that in the US, we sort of maybe don't have like salaries, or let's say as in Europe, they have the Bundesliga, or in India, they maybe have some salaried players. But I think we're definitely in a place of a lot of privilege, and I feel it's not right to complain about it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities, and for me, I always felt like, okay, it's just, I think everyone's has a very, there's no like easy path to the top. No one's paying, no, you can't just buy your rating, buy your strength to the top. And yeah, I kind of felt like, the work of Rex and Jeannie Sinkfield with the St. Louis Chess Club, and then as well as, the tournaments in the United States have just like fantastic prizes. So, I mean, they generally don't pay for your flights or hotels. But that's kind of the risk I feel like it just has to take. So when I was kind of climbing up, generally, I was happy to play, and I was kind of winning most of the major opens. And yeah, it's just a different system. I don't know if one is better or worse than the other. For some of the players like in Uzbek or Kazakhstan, I think they have like a little bit more of a salary. But then like for the much more middling players, like the 2,500, 2,600s, like there might just be no support, and then you might just be much worse off. Whereas in the US, I think there's maybe not that much support, but we have these prizes that no other countries have. And if you do well, then you can kind of make your own support. Yeah, I don't feel like it's right to live in the US and sort of complain from this position when we have a lot of opportunity. Surely, of course, things could be better. Maybe we would prefer things in a slightly different way. But yeah, I think chess has given me so much opportunity, and it's really been a huge gift to me. So I don't really feel that way at all, honestly.
I understand. I also wanted to ask you about your, we started discussing this a little bit, your thoughts about the candidates' results and what this means for chess. In particular, for example, you played a match against Hikaru and you defeated him, and then later on he did not show his best game at the candidates. Do you think he's in bad shape right now, or what happened with him?
Yeah, there's just in general a huge amount of variance with these sort of results. Like I think basically a lot of players were in bad shape, and one player was in okay shape, and one player was like hotter than the sun. I'm not sure. I think I'm just not qualified to say. I feel like that level is still, I mean, by rating and also by strength, probably in an individual game, I'm not that far away from those players. Yeah, there's kind of a level of pressure and a level of experience there that, I don't really have that yet. So I feel like I have no idea how to conceptualize those sorts of results. But yeah, I think Sindarov was just incredible. I think one thing I thought was a little bit, it was kind of special, I think, how he was able to balance his risk-taking with his dynamic decision-making. I think it's very rare that you see he's like a players being able to balance that like strategic risk and their dynamic opportunities that well. In particular, I think sometimes Fabi maybe struggles a little bit with it. Like he's taking a lot of risks generally because to be honest, he's just stronger than the other players. But sometimes when you kind of do that, then other players are taking advantage of that. I think Hikaru and Fabi in particular are struggling a little bit because when people see that you are the favorite, they're maybe not willing to they're maybe like playing a little bit more solid. I think Fabi probably struggles with that because I don't know, when I play him in US Championship generally, or other tournaments, I'm like, okay, let's take a chill pill this game, and then next games we can try to beat the other players, right? So I think they kind of suffer a little bit from that, and I think with Sindarov, like people were maybe a little bit more open to giving him a game or fighting against him a little bit more. I don't know. I can't say like some players are good or bad. I just feel like I have a tremendous respect for all the players, and I think the amount of preparation and work they put in was incredible and kind of insane. Yeah, I think Sindarov won this time. I'm not really sure what would happen if the tournament was replayed. But yeah, you only have one winner, and I think he rose to the occasion this time in like such a special way. It was such a treat to watch.
Absolutely. You only have one winner, and we only have one way to finish off this podcast by playing a Blitz game with time odds, as we usually do on this one. Would you be willing to give me 1 minute against 5?
Of course.
Okay, I'll probably get demolished, but it will be a fun watch.
Okay. We'll play a little bit.
This is candy. Wow. This is nice. Okay, what to do?
Oh no, you didn't take. Okay, all right.
This is the Icelandic Gambit, or what is it called? Something like that?
Oh, it's kind of like a how I think about it is like a reverse Danish gambit.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's one of my favorites. Okay, you kind of tricked me there. Guess I should have brought the bishop out.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm panicking. All right. Oh, what? No. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm starting some offense.
Yes. Probably not good for me. Okay.
No, everything's fine. Not to worry.
Okay, let's go. Okay, whatever.
Whoa. Oh no, you confused me with that move. What the heck? I don't know what to do. Guess I should take. Oh man, I spent so much time. It's so confusing.
Yes. Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay.
Did you want queen h8? Okay.
H7.
Kidding.
Okay.
All good.
Mhm. What do I do?
Okay, I'm not too sure how to win this, so I'll try to flag you. Oh no. Oh, what the heck?
Okay.
Okay.
You don't need to flag me.
Wait.
I'll just
Oh,
resign.
no, okay. All right,
Okay.
all right. It's good game.
Yeah, thank you. At some point, I had not such a horrible position, right?
No, you were doing quite well off the opening, but I guess your C4 maybe is not the right way to play that structure.
So
I guess
C3.
some C3,
Yeah,
knight
yeah.
D2, rook E1, A4. Yeah, that I got into trouble, but it's okay.
And then I was losing all the time.
Yeah, there are some practical chances with the down to exchange because I guess you have no weaknesses. But okay, then at some point you got low on time.
Yeah. But I had no chance. Thank you for this
No.
masterclass. Thank you for this. Okay, very instructive game. I'll add that one to my to learning experiences in chess. Thanks for this opportunity and thanks for the fascinating discussion. Awonder, I wish you all the best. Get back to 2700 ASAP, and I'll be watching with big
thank you so much for
interest.
having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Guys, don't forget to leave a comment. Did you enjoy our discussion, our insights, and the game at the end? Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't yet subscribed, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.